Hi there. This week's story is a little bit different, and I'm setting it up for now in a very casual way as well, because the video itself that you're about to see is highly casual. Every now and then, Marina and I will have conversations, just the two of us, and we don't plan on airing them. While we do want to have a rather polished appearance and have organized content for you, we try not to overly script ourselves. And in this particular case, we were just recording ourselves because every now and then I like to record so I can go back to some key points we may have discussed. So it just helps me stay true to what our intention is. But as I was going back and listening, and in the moment I did hear there was power in what we were talking about, and an important message was being discussed. So while we're, in our Saturday casual gear and my hair's a mess and I have no makeup on and we weren't really planning on sharing this, we've decided that what we were talking about was more important than how perfect it was packaged. I think that that's an important message before we get into this. None of us are going to be happier by trying to be perfect. And that I can't think of a better way to convey that message than to just be that way and to share examples of it. So in our highly photoshopped, glamorized perfectionism space that is social media, and in some ways some are not, um, we're just going to show our raw footage. And it was not our plan, but it is our decision at this point to share it with you in the hopes that you don't feel alone, but that you feel understood and supported as you attempt to work on growing your own happiness in your life. To help as you listen, it's important to understand what we're talking about when we refer to any steps. There's a 4-step change process, and we call it the True Mindshifters Change Framework. This framework was created as a way to assist people in creating change in their lives to be more happy. I hope you enjoy this week's story.
So step one is nerve-wracking to yourself. Step two is embarrassing because you have to say it out loud, right? Step three is that's when you start getting the positive results, the positive emotions, the positive outcomes of your change. And that's such an incredibly positive feeling. And step four is like exhilarating. Honest. You gotta go through crap before you get to the sun. And I'm so, so happy. And I'm looking at the sunny weather at my beautiful window. I love it. Interestingly enough, you want to hear something funny? When you were talking about things that like this weekend with Rob, you guys had a little bit of a friction. Same here. We had bad weather. It was raining all day yesterday. We didn't even leave the house. Sergey is not feeling well, and we were not in a good place. We even raised our tones to each other. And it's interesting because this is not the first time when we are talking and we're finding that we're going through the same dynamic on the same day without even knowing.
What was beautiful though? Rob held space for me.
He's very wise, Eva. You gotta hear him. You gotta listen more. I think it could be one of the issues in your marriage, same as ours before.
Well, it was really sweet though. It wasn't like our past interactions. He held space for me, which I've been demanding, kind of like how you could come in and like demand, like, this needs to happen, right? Like, that's how I would be. I would be the same way, but to him, about how he would treat me or how he would not treat me. And it's so I'm like, I just need you to listen. And I would be like edgy about it and rude. And because I was frustrated, right? And I didn't own it. I thought I'm entitled to be frustrated for this jerk not listening to me, right? So I so he listened, and I would tell him, like, this is wasting so much time, like, this is ridiculous. We have had this conversation in 5 different ways instead of just having the conversation, the most simple conversation. You take things, you twist what I say, and then it's like a totally different conversation. So I'm pulling you back to what I'm actually trying to say. He listened. I was getting a little bit, I was letting out my feeling, which was a little raw. It wasn't disrespectful, it was just raw. And then he said, so you think this? He's like, well, that was me, but that's not me anymore. Because I said, you sound like you are constantly complaining. And I said, I don't want to live my life and make decisions based on what feels like making you not complain. I said, I want to build my life based on things I'm trying to create, not things I'm trying to avoid. And guess what? Once he heard me, I'm done saying what I have to say. He's like, so I started to do something else. And I said, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing this. Well, are we done talking about this? I'm like, yeah. I said, once you hear me, I'm done. I'm done. You heard me. And I said, but I should back up a minute because this is actually a big deal. You just heard me, Rob. You just heard me and you told me, you acknowledged, and then you said, this is not me anymore. And I believe you. I
But
said,
you
there's
gotta
nothing.
tell him that.
Yes. And so what I realized is I'm so ready and willing to move on that I didn't even say, thank you. Let's
But
move
it's a
on.
big deal. But
And
it's a
that
big deal.
and that was my learning yesterday. And it wasn't contentious at all. It was just like, babe, he's like, that was so fast. I'm all, this is what I've been trying to tell you for 20 years. And he's like, so you don't have anything else to say? I'm like, no, I don't. He's like, oh, he's like, so you're okay with all of this change? I'm like, yeah. I said, I feel safe with you when you hear me. And if there's something I'm wrong about, I'm okay with being told I'm wrong. I said, if you are genuinely telling me that this is where you are now, who am I to disbelieve you? But you would never tell me this is who you are now. You never said
Because he
that.
wasn't. Because he
No,
wasn't.
no. And he would make it about me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
of
So it
course.
it would just get twisted, right? So
And spin
yesterday was
and
yes,
spin.
you know the cycle. You know it. You know it. So that's what happened yesterday. He listened in such a different way and then he acknowledged, he owned it. And that's what he also said. He's like, I'm able to own and acknowledge what I did do before and what I won't do now.
Hugely important thing. You gotta remember this really, really seriously. You gotta praise him every single time. You gotta acknowledge his incredible transformation. The step in his, you have to. Like I'm acknowledging in yours,
Yes, yes,
it makes you feel good, right?
yes.
He deserves that
This is
too.
everybody needs to hear this too.
Yep.
This is a whole episode. This right here is a short follow-up episode. I'm not going to use this particular footage per se, but this is an episode. Just this topic of the
Supporting someone's transformation.
well, and what you will feel as you go through the process. So you introduce the process and what it is and how and when. And what you did right now, and which is huge, is what you will feel. And this is what of my deep beliefs is that what you're talking about is now in here. That is living in the body, the feeling part. All right. So that was a flavor of what it is like when Marina and I have our private conversations, and we hope that you enjoyed or related or learned from our sharing of this raw footage and going a little bit deeper into the True Mind Shifters Change framework, which we will also share more details and more stories about so that you can help create positive change yourself. We welcome you to share your comments and your feedback and hope this made you feel some empowerment, support, and love.